Now, local pig farmers are against government's agreement with the United States to allow pork and pork products onto the local market. The farmers are shocked at the move, fear it will be suicidal for the teething local industry. The pork market may be steadily growing. However, several factors are militating against the growth, especially access to feed and medication for the animals. According to them, opening the floodgate to the United States will crush their investment totally. Meanwhile, a statement cited by Joy News shows that government has already given the nod for the product to come in. Now, the statement reads in part. Let me share that with you shortly. Now, the statement that the United States Department of Agriculture has released indicates that they've had an agreement with the Ghana's Ministry of Agriculture already, and the statement says, in a signed letter to the veterinary medical officer of the United States Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, dated January 12, 2023, the acting chief veterinary officer of the Ghanaian Veterinary Services Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture acknowledged receipt of the FSIS's proposed certificate of export for pork and pork products and confirmed its acceptance. Now, the Ghanaian market is now officially open to U.S. export of pork and pork products, in addition to other meat products from the United States. The statement again says that market access request for pork and pork products was made by the USDA's FSIS on October 24th, 2022, and facilitated by FAS Accra. Now, FSIS proposed the use of the FSIS 9060-5 export certificate form for pork and pork products from the United States to Ghana. Now, this statement again says that responding to the request by USDA's FSIS to confirm the acceptance of the proposed export certificate of pork and pork products, the Chief Veterinary Officer of Ghana's Veterinary Services Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture indicated in a signed letter dated January 12, 2023, that Ghana will accept the proposed export certificate by the FSIS to cover all U.S. meat products, including beef, goat, lamb, pork, poultry, etc. So that's what the statement tells us. Now, as indicated in the 2021, Ghana's imported pork and pork product market value was at $16 million US. What do these figures really look like, and what will opening our market look like on the balance sheet? My colleague Kofi Ajay of our data and research desk is here with me to break down the figures for all of us to understand. Kofi, what does the data really point to?
Right, Barry, so this is coming at the point where, as a country, we've actually dwindled our international reserve. So as we speak now, the monies we have as our international reserve will be able to cover only about 1.5 months of import cover. Now, if you look at the touch screen right now, it took the government less than 3 months to actually respond to the U.S. government's request for an access to our pork market here in Ghana. So the request was placed on the 24th of October last year. It took the government less than 3 months to actually respond to this. On the 12th of January this year, government gave them the green light that our market is open. Our market is somewhat worth around $16 million is open, and you can have access to this $16 million market that we're talking about. But as we speak, it's not only the pork market. Somewhat, last year we saw the poultry market also facing similar challenge, and the Poultry Association also come in say that about some of their members have lost about 80% of their working capital, and about 80% of all poultry ventures have actually closed down because of foreign interference into our market. So the first to take the hit was the poultry market, and now we are talking about pork. But this comes at a time where the finance minister, when he was speaking to Parliament in November 2022, said that if you look at our import bills as a country, we exceed it by some $10 billion. And if you look at the things that actually bring this $10 billion, you can talk about rice, poultry, pork, and the other things that we import from other countries. So we look at this list and look at the countries that we import. So U.S. wouldn't be the first country that we're actually importing pork products from. Actually, every year we import pork products from this country. These are the top 10 countries that we're talking about. First being Belgium. Second is actually Poland. We have Germany, Netherlands, Ireland, Romania, Spain, and then there's Ukraine. We import pork from Ukraine. But if they've actually made a point that there's a time that we need dollars. There's a time that we are battling with our foreign exchange. And so placing more, force on our international reserve, which is somewhere around 1.5 months of imports cover, will really come out a heavy blow to us as a country. We are looking for a 3 billion IMF bailout package to solve our balance of payments issue. Adding an additional, we're already adding 16 million. Adding pork to it will mean that this bill will actually increase and it will put more pressure on the CD currently, which has actually lost about 90% of its value.
Interesting statistics there. Now, what does this mean to the pig breeder in Ghana? Kwame Appiah Dankwa, the president of Pig Farmers Association of Ghana, believes the decision to open up the market to U.S. pork product is a ridiculous one. He joins us via Zoom now. Grateful that you could join us. Why do you think this is a ridiculous decision?
Yeah, good evening and thank you for having me. If we look at the figures that you just brought on your screen, it means the local farmer is really doing something positive and needs to be encouraged, not to discourage him or her. What we were expecting was for government to sit down with us and see how best it could even help us as farmers to improve upon what we are doing already in terms of the breeds that we have, to bring exotic ones into the system, and also to help us with the feed that we used to give our animals, not to hear that they are rather going to let the American market come wholesale into our system. Those figures that they show that already bring their products into the system, they just bring them in, the ham and the sausages and that kind of thing. Not the whole pork as we are seeing to be coming from the US now. So it's something that if we don't put a stop to it or do something positive about it, it will really cripple the pork industry. So we really need to sit down with them, know exactly the package, so that we also know our role that we'll play, the advantages that we'll get, and if there's something that we need to change, then we will all discuss and put things in the right perspective, not just to sit down and after all the struggles that we've gone through all these years, now the market is getting fertile, then somebody will just come in wholesale and just come and take over the market. I don't think it's right. And we need
why wasn't this made known earlier to the ministry and to government so that it could inform the sort of conclusion they would arrive at?
We never had any information. We never had any information. We also saw it on the social media and we thought it was just, something that the normal social media letters that we see. Because we are even at the moment having a meeting with the FAO on standardizations to work on biosecurity so that our farms will be well kept and disease control and all those things will come into play, to really improve the industry. And that is what we've been doing all these years, trying to get a better marketing system, which we gradually building up. And farmers are, getting happy. People are now investing more into the piggery setup, only for this coming.
So as a farmer, what will this mean to you? What will it do for you as a local pig breeder?
What it will do is that most of the farmers cannot meet the competition and they'll fold up. Already, a lot of farms had issues with the ASF last year and they are now recovering from their farms. A lot of farms had issue with the expensive feed over the last couple of years. And because we've been able to now come up with a minimum per kilo price, it has really motivated farmers and they've now put in a little bit more money to get their businesses running again, only for this to also come at the beginning of the year.
All right, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Now, Dominic Agyekum is CEO of JFarmCo, a local meat production and retailing company. He believes if this is allowed, this will cripple the local pig industry. Thanks for joining us. Have you been able to wrap your head around this particular information we're receiving?
that would be a difficult one to get my head around. As a local processor and a retailer, I'm helping the local farmers. It's difficult. Why do I say this? In the beginning, you did, in your introduction, you used the word teething. Yes, the local farmers are in the teething state. The pork industry is in the teething state. And it's actually teething very well. Why do I say this? A lot of people are moving from foreign countries, coming in and investing into this sector with the hope that the market is at the early stages and that this is the time that they could invest well into the sector and make it bigger and better for the whole country as a whole. And all of a sudden, this news hits everyone in the country. Why is it so difficult for me? When this happens, my raw materials will not be met because local farmers are not bringing it anymore. And we're going to have foreign products inflation in the market, and hence businesses like my one are forced to shut down.
Interesting. Now, why do you say this will collapse the sector? You've explained that, you know, businesses like yours will suffer from raw materials, but paint the picture for us. There will be raw materials coming in from the US. Won't it be available to you?
Well, it will, but it's not beneficial to everyone as a country in Ghana. Why do I say this? There's a lot of employment that's going on in the country because of pork production, pork farming that's going on. And companies like my one who rely on these farmers to process these meats and put it onto the market, we employ people as well who work for us. So when this happens, these are processed products already. And it's not something that coming live that we're going to be slaughtering that will benefit me, but it will not benefit a lot of people in the country, and especially people who are employed in these farms to work. I have a lot of people working here in my pork department. When this happens, I don't need their services anymore because no slaughtering, no processing will be happening because the US man has done it and pushed it into my country.
You also talk about the cost of production. For example, do we know how much it costs to produce a 10 kilogram of carton of chicken product in Ghana? And how does that fare against one that will be coming from the United States of America, for example?
Okay, so 10 kilo portion, if you want to put, let's say, number of chicken together to get a 10 kilogram, you're looking about 750 cedis, 750 Ghana cedis. Whereas the ones we buy, the ones we buy on the market is about 350 cedis. What it means is that production in the foreign country is actually cheaper. Because it's cheaper, the local farmer here cannot compete. And when that happens, the local farmer has no choice than to shut down. Of course, the consumer will love to get the one that is imported. Why? Because it's cheap. It's got the quantity that feeds a lot of people in the house. And when that happens, the local production is rejected. And what happens? Nothing but to shut down their farms, as Kwame said.
Okay. All right. Let me bring in Professor Robert Adu. He is an agric economist with the Faculty of Agriculture at KNUST. He also believes, just like we opened the poultry industry to foreign importation and has almost collapsed it, this might cripple the young pork industry too, if pragmatic measures are not taken. Prof, grateful that you could join us here. Let's look at the economics, the impact of this decision on the economy in general, looking at it from the point of view of the pork industry.
Thank you very much, Kojo. I think my friends have already set the tone. And sometimes for us as economists, we wonder what the agriculture trade policy of Ghana really is. Because when Kofi was giving us the information on the board, he mentioned rice, he mentioned broiler industry. It would appear that we have almost collapsed the local rice industry. It is now struggling to pick up. And then the broiler industry is also down. And now we are coming to the pig industry. It is so sad because instead of trying to boost exports so that we'll get a lot of foreign exchange into the country, we are rather trying to promote importation. And some of us find it difficult to understand why we are pushing that agenda. We are talking about high youth unemployment in Ghana. We graduate so many people from our tertiary institutions. They go out there and there are no jobs for them. if we are able to preserve the domestic agricultural industry, here specifically we are talking about the pig industry, we will be able to employ so many of our youth. And so, one, it is going to affect employment. Most of these young pig farms are going to collapse. There's no two ways about that. The cost is just too high to produce locally. Now, when you compare that to the one that they are going to bring in, the normal consumer who already has challenges with budget will go for the cheaper option. And when we are even talking about the health implications, those they are going to bring, no one really knows for how many years they have preserved them. And so I think as far as employment is concerned, we should try to be very cautious with this.
But the importation will also create sources of employment, isn't it?
No. But how many people can be employed by a cold facility? If you go to a typical farm, you have people who are there, those who are working on the feed, those who are feeding the animals, those who are processing. There are many, and I think the cascading effect is so great.
Okay.
Nowadays,
so Prof, going forward, how can we protect the local pork industry such that it can stay and grow as it is doing now?
I think that instead of allowing this unfettered importation, government should sit down with the players in the industry, try and rather give them subsidy so that they can produce and be profitable. People who are going to bring in imports, let us try to use tariff. Let's increase the import duty so that when they bring them in, the prices will be very high so that the local producer can be competitive on the market. Otherwise, we are going to create employment for people who are outside the country to the detriment of our economy.
All right. I'm grateful to you, Prof, for joining us.